Recorded live from the heart of the Bakken, it's the Williston Works Podcast.
Welcome to the Williston Works Podcast, brought to you by the City of Williston. Williston Works brings you in-depth discussions with the entrepreneurs, small business owners, and investors who are getting it done in Williston, North Dakota. I've got with me today is Dave Juma. He's a City of Williston engineer. And what you see with economic development a lot, David, is that, I'm kind of the guy, if people come and they want to build something or they want to bring something to town, I'm like, yeah, let's do it, man. Let's just stick it wherever. I don't think about things like drainage, roads, connectivity, stuff like that. That falls into your department. That's really, really important when we talk about engineering. But a little bit of background to yourself. How did you get to the City of Williston?
Well, Shawn, I'm from Williston originally, as you know. Classmates graduated a few years ahead of me, but not too terribly many. And just kind of always been here, just been home. Went to NDSU, did my internship abroad, and then came back, and the position was open. I applied, and here I am.
Well, and the neat thing, though, is you come with a pretty extensive background in engineering, and I always like to point that out with what you see with department heads in the City of Williston or employees in general, that, the public can feel pretty confident that the department heads that are running the show in their respective departments are doing a really good job because they got the experience. But what did you do before you became head of the city engineer?
Well, before we get on that topic, Shawn, I'd like to say the city has done a very excellent job of putting together a very powerful team. Yeah. Coming from the private sector to the public sector was a fairly smooth transition, and it's just amazing to me the quality of talent that the city's been able to put together. So as far as my background goes, I've got, since 2002 in heavy civil and engineering and survey and Highway 2, when we four-laned that one, I was one of the survey crew chiefs up there, worked with the DOT, and then from there went over to NDSU and kind of took a little different path while I was at SU. I TA'd for a little bit, and then I worked for the Center for Nanoscale Science and Engineering up there, where we developed the low-frequency cards like you have when you swipe that was one of the things that we invented. And a bunch of other nanoscale size stuff. Worked with those guys quite extensively, and then after I left NDSU, I went down to Denver, where I worked down there, and basically kind of did whatever it was that they needed me to do, whether it was railroad stuff or forensic claims analysis for DOTs, just kind of a mutt mash of things, and then moved back up here and went to work for a company called Allied Engineering out of Stanley. And worked with them for a while, and then went out and consulted in the oil field.
How many people are in your department right now when we talk about engineering?
I have 7.
Okay.
We had 8. Unfortunately, Bob has retired, so we lost a tremendous amount of experience and a wealth of knowledge.
We're talking about Bob Hansen, 30 plus years of engineering, I think with just the City of Williston, then he was an engineer prior to that. So a wealth of knowledge. He's coming up on retirement here. And, just to turn over the reins is a challenge in and of itself. So, kudos to you for stepping into that role. Let's talk about a day-to-day. What's day in the life of the engineering department?
So our department, as you know, manages all of the infrastructure projects that are ongoing inside of the City of Williston. We also have our locates, so water, sewer, my department does locates on. At some point in the future, we're hoping we can get electrical on there. So basically, from the time that it's in someone's brain to the time that it's in the ground, we have our fingers on it the whole way through, whether that's on the design, the budgeting, the estimating, the contracts, actually managing the construction, which for our larger projects, we tend to use our consultants, but for the smaller jobs, we tend to do in-house. Obviously, with only 7 staff members, we're kind of limited on what we can take on or what we have to outsource to other people. We also manage the city's GIS system, which if no one's used that before, it's an excellent tool to basically find out who your neighbors are if that's what you want to do, or see what's buried in the ground in front of your house. We have all the water and sewer and storm sewer and electricals all on there, and has the most up-to-date aerials of Williston, which is pretty handy.
Well, and talking about the GIS system, and that's a pretty valuable tool out there for anybody. You can look at property ownership. You can look, like you said, where you're seeing water and sewer lines. We look at it a lot when we're working with developers, looking at raw land out there just to see where there might be some connections for them. But, for the listeners out there, you'd go to cityofwilliston.com. I think GIS is right on the homepage. You just click on it and you could take a look at about where everything's running with the city. Let's talk about the biggest project that's going on there right now, out in Williston right now. We're talking about Williston Square, okay? It's the old airport. It was about 800 acres that was vacated when we opened up the new XWA. I always have a reputation for trying to move fast, but I even myself have to say I didn't realize how quickly the Williston Square would move forward right now. When we're talking about engineering, we're talking about businesses that want to get in there. I mean, we've got Slim Chickens ready to break ground. We've got a clothing store that's going to be breaking ground yet fall of 2021. There's a discussion of the Sanford Hospital and Clinic that will be going out there, and there's lots of the 911 center is going to be opening up in October out there. The UAS company, unmanned aerial company Vantis, they're practicing UAS flights out there. This is all going on at the same time. You guys are trying to get roads, water, and sewer, and everything in out there. What sort of challenge has that been for you guys as fast as this has moved forward with XWA?
Well, that's a really good question. The city was fortunate enough to have the foresight to develop a master plan, which has helped us on a per project basis to more or less expedite the design process. So far, we've got our 3rd Avenue project, which is going in, which is going to serve the quick service retail lots. And then basically that design was done in 2 months. We've got 9th Avenue and 33rd Street, which we completed the design on those in about a month. And it's all because of this master plan. It helps us to look at it and say, okay, we know we need water and sewer here to make this area work. We know we need storm here, and we've identified a few of the detention areas that need to happen. So
in addition to everything that's going on within the site of Williston Square, there's a lot of rumbling going on about that intersection on the southeast corner. We're talking Highway 2, 26th Street. It's probably the busiest intersection we have in the community, I'm guessing. It needed a major makeover a long time ago, but it's going to get it, and it's happening fairly quickly. What can you tell us about that, of what we can expect to see here over the next couple of years?
Okay, well, this is a question that actually comes up quite a bit that we get from the general public, and where we're at on it is we've identified 4 different design alternatives. One is do nothing. The second would be make modifications to the existing infrastructure around town. The third is a split intersection, which is the heavily favored alternative in the city. And then the fourth would be an overpass. Right now where it sits is we've come to an agreement with the state and the feds as to how we're going to finance this thing. And then we're just basically waiting on the draft environmental documents to get finalized, which came in late last week, and then all the stakeholders get to vote on their preferred alternative, and then we will move forward with the design and right-of-way procurement portions of the project. It's looking like we're hopefully going to go, like I said, with the design alternative 3, which is a split intersection. So 2nd Avenue is going to take off from 26th Street in a northwesterly direction and enter into the square, and that's how we're going to tie 3rd Avenue and 33rd together. 4th Avenue will also be on that at some point in the future, assuming that we don't get a developer that wants to buy the whole block. It is our intent to put 4th in, but it's definitely negotiable. Then 26th Street will continue through into the intersection where 26th now currently turns into the west frontage road. We'll be ending that in a cul-de-sac type bulb near the old lumber yard. So that connectivity will go away. And then the final alignment will be to basically take all Highway 2 and shift it just a little bit to the west, pretty much right where the west frontage road is now, and then vacate the east frontage road. The current one.
Well, and that's, didn't mean to cut you off there, but that's one thing. That whole corner is probably one of the hottest prospects for restaurant development of calls that we get into the office, and I'm always telling them, just hold off. It's going to look much different when this intersection gets done. Where you think you want to go right now is probably going to be much different. Again, after this intersection gets kind of reconstructed, and we're seeing huge demand off that east side of Williston Square from, like I said, Slim Chickens ready to break ground. We've got several in discussion right now, to hopefully move forward to. But a lot depends on how that ends up. You talked a bit about So how does that affect me as a resident? What can I expect over the next couple of years? My day-to-day activities is a resident city of Williston. I'm going to encounter road traffic. What's it going to do to me?
Oh, so when we tear that, yeah, I've been kind of afraid to talk about this one with some folks. But so basically what's going to happen is we've identified alternative routes for rerouting traffic during the construction. We've got one more piece to build next year, which will be 9th Avenue, basically coming in front of Trinity Christian School and going north. We want to extend it through the trailer park, the Glen Villa that's there, and then use that to tie into 33rd, and 33rd, then we'll route traffic over to 34th, up 4th, and then they'll be able to travel around that general area without being impeded by the construction. On the other side, we're going to have to use University and 42nd. We don't really have a choice. It's kind of like when we installed 16th and 42nd. It wasn't quite sure how it was going to work right away at the beginning. A lot of folks were like, but now you can get all the way from the Highway 2 on 32nd down by Menards up to the airport with 3 stop signs?
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. So we're going to try to do that same style of traffic flow pattern with 9th and 33rd, where we can put people into a roundabout, send them north, send them east, send them west, send them south. If that's the way they want to go. They just want to drive around in circles. That's okay too.
One of the kind of misconceptions coming out of this whole thing was that it was, that intersection was going to be a giant roundabout. And it's kind of comical. I always think about that with Chevy Chase and the European Vacation. He gets in this roundabout and he can't get out and stuff like that. But that I think initially was looked at, but that was scratched, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, it had some constraints that were difficult to overcome, so it was scrapped. Although I tried to resurrect it when I first came on with the city, and I got shot down pretty hard. So, no, more seriously, it would have worked if we would have had a little bit less traffic volume in that intersection. But as it is with the type of traffic that we have, a lot of it's heavy. You got trucks coming through, not as much as there used to be, obviously, but if oil hits $100 a barrel like they're forecasting in 2022, we're going to start seeing more of that.
Yeah, like I said, we're going to go for another ride here. Indication is showing that's going to be pretty busy for us going in 2022. So, talking, also some of the stuff that, and you had mentioned this, but, that has been completed. There's been some nice projects that have happened out there. 16th is one of them. You guys, you go in there, and this is on the west side of Williston Square. It now connects you from 26th to 42nd. But what I really liked of what you guys did, is you had this, you had this thought process when it was developed. You kept the trees, you put walking paths in there. It's just, there's some beautification along there, and it's not just kind of a barren road going through there. And, how did that project progress? Did you encounter any problems with that, or?
We did, actually. There's groundwater out there that didn't show up in our soil borings that was much higher than what we had anticipated, which caused us to redesign a good chunk of 16th in the field, basically. We overcame that. We figured out a way to reroute the water, so we're capturing it now and sending it down the ditch. The ditch, obviously, is still very, very wet. As you can tell, the public has been using the ditch for their motorcycles and four-wheelers, and they've been rutting it up and tearing it up pretty bad because it's so soft.
A couple final questions for you. One, we talk about, what might be for the future of the city of Williston. When you look at it from an engineering standpoint, what does the future look like here in the community?
What I see is my career in the Williston Square, more or less, because I think that's going to be the centerpiece for at least the next decade to come, if not longer, which I'm really not that old, so that's kind of a rounded question, but that's a big thing. The other thing that I think Williston's done a really good job on, and that's our reconstructions, keeping our older neighborhoods up as we've slowly marched across town from the east to the west in the older neighborhoods. And it does a lot to rejuvenate those portions of town. The housing there is affordable for most people. They're good starter homes in that high 100s to mid 200s area. It's just perfect.
Well, and it's good you brought that up with the reconstruction effort, because that's a good point to make that when we talk a lot about the STAR Fund. I think people hear about the STAR Fund a lot because of economic development and what we're doing with, low interest loan programs, grants, things like that. And, what it is, it's a 1 cent city sales tax, but only a quarter of that penny goes into the Jobs Creation Fund for economic development. The other 3/4 goes into infrastructure debt relief, which helps offset some of those costs into the neighborhoods. So if someone's seeing their street and curb and gutter being redone in front of their house, it's a very, very good chance that they're not going to have to take the entire brunt of the cost that they're seeing there. The STAR Fund helps offset that a bit. So it's been the STAR Fund, been around since I want to say the real early 90s, and it's just been a great program. Just got revoted in again. It's probably going to run through 2030. And so it's a good program. I think it helps kind of both departments on there when we talk economic development and public works and engineering. So final thoughts. I'm going to give you the last word. We're talking to entrepreneurs and developers out there. Any advice you would give them if they're coming into the city of Williston?
You're coming into the city, don't believe everything that you see on social media. We are not Pit Hole City in Pennsylvania. Williston, like any other community, if you look hard enough and you dig hard enough, you're going to find some bad to go with the good. But our administration and our leadership have done an excellent job of keeping our community healthy and clean. As you mentioned before, we've put a lot of effort into re-landscaping areas as part of our reconstructions and our new constructions. We have landscape plans to help keep the city green and clean. And as we discussed, the revitalization of our older neighborhoods by the reconstruction projects have been a tremendous output for the city. It's been ongoing since 2012. We, as the city, cover all of the underground and 2/3 of the surface work. So the rest of it, only 1/3 of it gets assessed to the community, unlike some other communities in the state where they catch the brunt of almost all of it, if not 100% assessed. So that's been very helpful for us. Basically, I would encourage anyone, if you're coming here, please do. We need more people. We need more businesses. We need more opportunities. We need more choices.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we are a city that, I always say this a lot, but we grew so quickly as a city. We didn't add the things that make a city, so that the infill small businesses, we're still doing that. We're doing that at a rapid pace, but again, we grew so quickly that we're still trying to catch up. So there's a lot of tremendous opportunity out here. There's also a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurs out there. You can find out more about the engineering department on citywilliston.com. Just click under their Department of Engineering. We talked extensively about Williston Square. If you want to see what's going on out there, you could take a drive by there. There's trucks and everything moving around out there. There's a lot of activity going on. But you can go to our website, willistondevelopment.com, under major initiatives, and we've got all the maps and plans for Williston Square that people can take a look at. So, David, I want to thank you again for taking the time to come on Season 4 of the Williston Works Podcast. You have definitely got your hands full out there, but I tell you what, the future's looking really good, and I'm excited, as an economic developer, to have you at the helm, because we're going to do some good things out there. So thanks again.
Thank you, Shawn.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Williston Works Podcast, brought to you by the City of Williston. Please like and subscribe for more interviews and content, and to learn more about Williston, North Dakota, visit citywilliston.com. I'm Shawn Wenko, Executive Director of the Economic Development Office, and we will see you next time.